Excellent. Thank you all for being here. I will call the meeting to order. This is the Town Manager Screening Committee. Today is October 7th, 2024 at 6:30. We are in the beautiful Galata room with Joe looking over our shoulder, looking over our work today. So that's the meeting called to order. Next on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes. I'm sure none of you read them because I haven't written them. So I'll get that back to you, but I have submitted all the minutes that were previously approved. So is there any comments from anyone on the committee before we listen to John's report? Nope, don't see any. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to you, John, for your report on the profile that you've been working on.
Yeah, so we have the position statement for you. We met with a bunch of folks, gave a lot of folks opportunity, and we eventually did speak to every member of the select board, which is always our goal, you know. And so we did Zooms with each member individually for the most part. And I've been around town a couple of times, met with police chief, fire chief, public works director, HR, you know, interim manager, facilities director, and I don't think who else. So did give opportunity to a few others.
What about finance people?
Yes, I met with, yes, yeah, absolutely. So we met, we talked a while. So had him in there as well. So went through, gave opportunities to others. I sent emails to school superintendent and folks to, you know, I stopped at the superintendent's office one day, but she was not in the office. But I ended up at a meeting and she was there. So I gave opportunities to, you know, to various folks. So I think we got what we needed. We've been working on this, and I think, so we put together a profile, the, you know, position statement, you know, for your review. And I think it's in very good shape, you know, at this point. So I think we've had good conversation across the board with each member of the select board, you know, which is always helpful, you know, as well as, you know, a few observations from our end. Hopefully things will, you know, continue to improve a little bit, and you know, on things, but you know, so we had good meetings. There was, you know, at no point did we hit a rough spot in the discussion, you know, which is good. So I think we've, you know, in here have highlighted, you know, the various points, have put together a pretty good profile of the candidates we're seeking, you know, within here, based on what we've been hearing. So again, a lot of this is based on what we're hearing, and for the most part, I think it was pretty much across the board, you know. And since we're, you know, live, I'm going to refrain from some comments, you know, about, you know, the past and everything. But I think for the most part, you know, we heard, you know, and we always tell everybody this is in confidence, you know, when we're having these discussions. But for the most part, we heard, you know, some of the opportunities and some of the challenges. We always like to talk about, well, you know, for those of you who live here, well, why do you live here? You know, and what's, you know, what's great about Lunenburg? Why do you stay? You know, and we heard a lot of that as well. So I think we're in pretty good shape at this point, you know. So I think we're able to talk about the opportunities in particular and the challenges, you know, going forward. But I also heard people saying, particularly in the select board, I think there's a willingness to, you know, try to move forward, you know, which is, you know, positive to hear. So I think the meetings overall were very good, you know, with what we had. Tom, you were our first, I think, if I remember right.
I don't remember. I was
so
only involved in mine.
Yeah. So you were the first, but we ended up speaking.
Generally got better.
You set the tone. Come
on. We always try to improve.
Oh, good. Get the right order.
So, so that worked out. So here we are. So I think the goal tonight is to get your approval, you know, of this document, and then let's set a course of action for the November timeframe. You know, as to setting up we'll need basically probably 3 meetings. You know, 1 meeting in which we'll choose the candidates that you wish to interview. So a discussion, you know, of the people we'll receive, and then probably two sessions of interviews. If we're looking at 6 to 7 people, usually it's about an hour per person. And most people these days don't want to go the 8 hours trying to get through a stretch of interviews. They try to break it up into, 2 sessions to do it. So that's kind of where we're at. So, so in essence, I probably need 3 more sessions, with you folks. And then after that, we would do our reference and background checks, on all the candidates that we're sending forward to the select board. Then we'll provide those to the select board and do interviews with the select board and work through the chair on that. So that's kind of where we are in the process.
Gentlemen, questions, comments, go right ahead.
I think you wrote a fantastic profile. I didn't really have any issues with anything in the narrative. A couple of questions on the description of the ideal candidate.
Sure.
Are these in an order of priority or not?
No, we try to flow it through here. I'm not sure there's a way to prioritize them. But it is something that, really this is, for the candidates, but it's also for you as a screening committee, as you're going through thinking about these qualities, with the candidates you're going to receive to go forward. But in no way is this, every profile always starts with, the educational, background. So we kind of start with that because, that's this, but again, there's no prioritization within here. All of these, I think, were kind of said to us. Some of these are going to be standard in every one you look at, but in others, we've tried to capture, things that were critical to the thought process we heard from select board members in particular, but as well as from department heads. We heard some of the, comments from department heads of how things have transpired from their viewpoint, and we want to make sure we capture how they feel it should transpire going forward. So the communication aspect, and the team approach, and making sure you give opportunity to the members of the team to advance themselves and to advance the organization. So we heard some of that, going through. So we tried to capture that here. But more importantly, when I'm talking to candidates, it'll be part of that discussion, that I'm having with folks.
So it struck me as I read through the list of attributes that, out of probably 17 or 18, I didn't exactly count the number. There was really one that was specific to finances, budgeting, and long-term. It was all in one: proficient in municipal financial management, budgeting, and long-term planning. Whereas literally all of the other ones were really about management, leadership, communication, those types of what I would call softer skills. My question is, I'm assuming that was reflective of a lot of the conversations that you've had, and do the leaders that you spoke with anticipate that they will be taking on a greater budgetary responsibility in lieu of that? Or
no, I think this is, in these type positions, first of all, personnel and budgetary skills are usually the 2 accepted skills that everybody understands, coming into this. So I think that's why maybe we don't stress through this part as much, because, in a small town of this nature, when I'm having a discussion with candidates, I'm going to be making sure that, in a smaller community, you're the budget person. There's no budget analyst, in the background. You're going to need these inherent skills, and that's why we got it here. But I think to belabor it even further in this is not, probably is not necessary, because we're going to capture that.
Okay, fair enough.
Discussion.
I had one other question. Again, I'm not really quarreling with the language, but I thought it was an interesting choice of words. The last bullet is ability to bring people together and diffuse conflict. Which I thought diffuse was an interesting choice of words. And maybe I'm just overly skeptical, and I'd love to get a consensus builder, but ultimately I think that a town like ours, there's always going to be a certain amount of conflict, and it goes in ebbs and flows over time.
Sure.
My personal view is that we need somebody who can acknowledge the conflict, acknowledge the opposing positions, but ultimately, take a position as is defined and necessary by the job and move forward to advocate for that position. And, following all the other attributes around transparency and those kinds of things that you mentioned. Diffuse struck me as something less than acknowledging and dealing with conflict.
Yeah. First of all, the person who wrote this was Jen Leffitz. You met Jen, in there, and and I think in the discussions we heard, we were trying to get this. Now, I'm open to another word besides diffuse, but it is recognizing that you have to attack the conflict. And that's the wrong word to use it here, but I thought that diffuse was a reasonable word to use in this context. Open to another suggestion, but
I
it
asked
is
the question without a suggestion.
yeah. I noticed that part. Like, that's why I'm tossing it back at you. But it'll be something we need to pursue in our discussions as we're looking at the candidates. And we certainly we've got questions. How do you address conflict? How do you address the employee who's not playing the team player according to others? So yeah, we can try to get into that a little bit during the interview stage. But
okay, that's my only.
Great.
I really liked given the feedback we've heard in this group, given the feedback not directly about this, but in general, I've heard from town employees over the past time. I don't want to put exact figure on it because I don't want to misrepresent one way or another, but I like the focus on the soft skills. I like delineating that because I think it creates a clear expectation that we're looking for, and to my way of thinking, need someone with those soft skills, because we need that ability to bring people together, to manage a room. I like diffuse because in my mind, part of diffusing conflict is, hey, let's see if we can find common ground. And part of diffusing conflict when you can't find common ground is finding the way to press forward that isn't going to, once you pick your way to press forward, you then have to stop the explosion from happening. And I would really, really like to meet the person this part describes, because golly, would I enjoy having them in town government.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
I think that's the goal, is to get people to
Right, I mean, but when I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be a really good town manager. Oh, well, yeah, that would make sense.
I thought Kerry hit most of that, if not all of that. Kerry was a really good manager.
they're again, okay, well, open session. I want to be careful because this is being taped, right?
It is.
But there's always different viewpoints. No matter where we go, there's always different viewpoints. I'm telling you what we heard, from select board members as well as the department heads. They're looking for an opportunity, to work with a person who will bring a fresh approach to the situation. We heard that across the board. And I think that's what this was trying to, to acknowledge. And, whenever, no matter, I held a couple of positions, there's after being in a place for 5 years, there are gonna be people who line up, on either side, because most of our job is to say no versus to say yes. And so you develop, those pieces. But in this case, I think people were looking for an opportunity to be able to expand their horizon within the jobs they're holding now. We did hear that, you know, within the organization. So that's why I think soft skills, I don't know why we call them soft skills. They should be hard skills.
Much harder.
You know, because these are the skills. I mean, you know, the first thing you're looking for is a leader. The second thing you're looking for is a person who can handle a budget. You know, on top, it can't be lost. But if someone can handle the budget and handle, you know, collective bargaining, you know, and they're very good at that, but they're losing the capacity and a hard skill, you're going to lose the game, you know, in the long run. So I think that's so important, and that's why, you know, we concentrated more on those skills. And to me, they're leadership skills. You know, that's why I want to use the term soft skills in these. And I think, you know, that's what we were hearing. Every conversation I had, you know, I talked to Carter. You know, Carter's, you know, got a pretty good, you know, he's got a different viewpoint, you know, because he's an interim. He's come in here, he's seen things from a different, you know, different light, and he's not having to worry about living with that for the next 5 years. So he sees things in a different light, and then I hear maybe a little bit differently, but, you know, across the board, this is pretty much what we were hearing. So that's why we tried to capture this way. We're always, some of these are going to be in every statement we do, you know, because it's the nature of the job. I mean, you know, your town administrator / town manager is the chief administrative officer. So we want that, and inherent in that should be number one, leadership. And then all the other skills are, you know, I'm not saying 2, 3, and 4, but they're all important. But number one is leadership. If you don't have that, you're going to have an issue.
Yeah, I thought it was good, and I liked how you didn't sugarcoat some of the issues that we're having, because, you know, the last paragraph on the first page is, you know, in recent years, we struggled to attract and retain talent, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, and key positions needing to be filled. I mean, a lot of the directors are new, and whereas this is the director of directors, that's going to be a challenge. So some people view that as a positive, that it is a challenge.
I mean, that's the opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, from a candidate. That's the opportunity side that, you know, this was a challenge, or this is a challenge, turn it into an opportunity.
Right. I thought it was great, though. I really like it.
Getting down wicked into the weeds.
Okay.
There's the wording in finances about a couple very minor points. I don't know that they matter. Second line, Lunenburg is a semi-rural bedroom community that relies heavily on residential taxes as its revenue source.
Okay.
Two things. One, are we going to be drawn and quartered for referring to this as a bedroom community? It is a bedroom community now.
Well, then you can't be drawn and quartered.
Well, that's false. We can't.
Well, I mean, yeah, but you can't be false. You know,
Oh, no, I don't.
If you put out what you think is the truth.
I don't know. I did not know. You know, I don't have better words.
There are people who hang heroes. What do you want us to say?
Yeah. I don't think there are better words. I didn't know, however, if I was wrong and there were better words to describe us.
That's your concern, like, versus rural, or?
I see, because we're not.
Semi-rural.
We're not. Yes, I like semi-rural because I think that threads that needle.
Is this where I fall asleep, by the way? I mean, and then wake me up when you're talking something on this?
So I'm not, I mean, I'm putting that out because I can see that being a bone of contention with members of the community. I don't know of a better phrase, so I think it's probably fine, but I wanted to kind of think that out loud.
If we were to do, and we have not, but if we were to do a survey from 10 years ago about the people who lived in town and worked within the 5-mile radius or 10-mile radius, and would do it today, it would have significantly changed.
I agree.
So we are, almost by that definition, a bedroom community, insofar as a bedroom community, to my understanding, is where you live in one place, but you work in another place.
So my comment to you is that this is not a community document.
Right.
You know, that this is a document to get the candidate understanding This was written by us, so this wasn't written or
Yeah.
accepted by you as a document that's gonna be on, the website, all about Lunenburg, this would be. So what we're trying to do is, again, just, give a reasonable understanding, so we can begin the discussion with candidates. And to me, that's normal wording of, you're rural, you're suburban, and you're city. Where do you fall in those, so. Almost every bedroom, community is a bedroom community,
That was-
For the most part, yeah.
exactly, depends how you define that, but,
And my other question there, again, getting very in the weeds probably doesn't matter, but we talk about the residential that relies heavily on residential taxes as its revenue source. I mean, that is a fact. That's not a question. That is, to my understanding and experience, that is not by design, that's by happenstance.
Right.
And I know that through the master planning process, the voices start to be heard about what can we do about commercial and industrial development in appropriate areas. I mean, very common master planning type things. I didn't know if it was better to say currently with that, and that may not matter, but I didn't know if that helped frame the thought process of applicants coming in. But
I think in the career of this town manager, that
Not-
statement will be true
Not
on
gonna
the
change
entire.
substantially.
Yeah,
again, the comment is, this isn't a master plan, this is a statement of what is today
Yeah.
for the managers to consider coming in, so.
Out of curiosity, did anybody discuss with you an interest in economic development?
Yeah, we heard some of that, within there, but again, it's, we'll see, trying to remember how we we got economic and community development,
Yeah.
Here's a title, so it's addressed a little
But
bit,
did it,
but it
did
is.
it come up, in terms of the priorities, wants, because it isn't really captured in the,
No, and it did come out in
In the-
some discussions with us, yes. It comes down to how much can we focus on that, in a document like this. But it should be a goal for a new person coming in, and usually one of the questions we'll ask, during the interview is, what you've seen about this town, what type of, strategies could you, consider, or direction you would consider, bringing into a community of this nature, so. Obviously, there's opportunity here. I mean, you're not a 100% bedroom community. This isn't Bolton where I live. You've got, sections, here with opportunities. You've got big box stores here. You've got some other opportunities, you've got sewer. At Bolton, our stuff just runs, right in the hole in the backyard. So, you have infrastructure here, you have opportunities. So I think, we'll have to pursue a person who can see that, and who can, envision a little bit more around that.
I will say that I thought the document was excellent, and for somebody to submit a 4-page document to me where I can come up with 2 things, one of substance and one in Matt's way of speaking, in the weeds. I'll do the in the weeds one first of all. The fourth to the last bullet. This is just grammatical. So consensus builder and problem solver should be hyphenated. Like this is the detail level that I get to. That's one. But the only thing of substance I have, and it's not like I don't agree with it because it's true, but the sentence that I'm about to bring out makes it look isolated, that it's to Lunenburg. And that is the sentence that Mr. Menard brought out. In the last sentence of that first entry position statement, in recent years, Lunenburg has struggled to attract and retain town staff. I don't want to highlight the fact that, this is a unique situation to us, because from my understanding, it is not.
No, it's not.
Right, so I would say, as with many towns, or something like that, to make it look like, hey, we don't have some isolated problem where people are just leaving willy-nilly.
Right. Because nobody wants to
Right,
work here.
right,
Yeah.
that's the only change I had.
That's a very good point.
Sure, I can add that.
I like that.
Otherwise, I think it's excellent.
Yeah, Jen, and again, I don't take credit for this, Jen, you met Jen on the Zoom.
Well, you said she was a good writer,
Well,
and now
that's why we
I
hire.
have proof that she's a good writer.
That's why you don't let me write. We hire someone, who understands that side. And so we have two communications experts with our firm. And that's what they're here for, is to.
I'm just glad there's people out there in the world who can still write, because the things that
Yes.
pass across my desk make me very nervous for the future.
I'll agree with most of what everybody said. I think it's an excellent document, very well written. And I think it presents us very well. I like the idea that it focused more on the leadership skills, soft skills, whatever you want to call them. Because I think in one of our very first meetings, we talked about that as a group, that we didn't want to just focus on the financial, because then everything else gets lost. And that's what we're hearing from the employees, I think, is that they need more, some strong leadership, some good soft leadership skills, whatever you want to call them. So I think that was excellent. The only other thing that I was going to ask about is, we had talked, or we did the last two times, I guess, about having them write a project, and we would be doing something like that. Asking them to do, give us an analysis of a problem and present it to them.
What we've done in the past, which I think is works better, is we ask them to submit something they produced.
Already produced.
Doing these hypotheticals.
We did talk about that.
Yeah, and candidates get turned off, by that as well. But producing a document, in advance when they come for their interview, bring with you something that you take pride in, that you have authorship of and you take pride in, as to a report of some nature. So we can get that, and we've done that. We don't do it often, but when it's requested,
Well, I like
we
the idea
recommend
that
that.
we can see how they
Sure.
present and sell a case of whatever it is that they worked on.
Some candidates bring documents, things that they produce with them, sometimes. But we can ask them to bring a document of which they have.
Yeah, I would like,
ownership of.
my thinking is if you're gonna take that approach, which I fully support, for the exact same reasons around the custom project, but ideally, I would like them to speak to whatever they've submitted.
Sure.
Because I'd like to kind of just understand, just take it on your own, present it as you see fit, just to get a reflection of how somebody can take their own work and present it.
Yes.
Well, and I think the key word that I would latch onto, what Peter just said, is presenting. So there are different skills that you sometimes cannot get in an interview. So interview skills are conversational. You
Right.
want to see they can hold a thread and present, defenses or explanations about what they do. But a real presentation would be helpful, both in the printed or the PowerPoint form and in their semi-presentation. I don't want them to do a 2-hour presentation, but
just
something.
5 minutes.
And then a submittal, like I said about the writing here, I would like them to submit something that they've written
Sure.
that explains something to somebody in a more formal format, not an email, not anything, something that
Sure.
shows
A
their.
report of some nature.
I think the last time we did it, we thought we'd get a freebie. We'd asked them to give us their economic plan. We're kind of hoping that we get 3 or 4 good plans. We could put it together, maybe, and use it in the future, but.
How can we consolidate and reduce our debt in town? Everybody furiously taking notes about.
See, my economic development plan was just go to Burlington, so, I don't have to have economic, everything just came to us, so with Burlington, I don't have to do anything. That's why I ended up there at the end.
You could fix traffic.
Yeah.
Bedford too.
We actually did some interesting things there. We were the first to implement computer-controlled light systems. So we had gotten a grant, and some of the lighting on the intersections around the mall area were all tied to the computer, so that if we had a backup in one area, it was governing the 13 other lights in the area.
Makes sense.
And it really paid off.
Okay, other questions, comments for John?
This is putting on your prediction hat for whatever it's worth. In the current environment, for what you've seen, do you foresee, I'm not holding to it, I'm really just trying to get a good sense. Do you foresee us having a problem attracting candidates
I don't think so.
Okay.
You know, I did search in Bolton, you know, which was just earlier this year, and, you know, we ended up with 4 finalists that were excellent. And they hired, you know, I'm an assistant town administrator,
Mhm.
you know, out of Harvard, and then the other 3 candidates they had, I thought were, you know, really good. There was a gentleman out of New Hampshire and 2 ladies who were town administrators further west. You know, in this area, always go west, you know, type thing, because that's where you're gonna get people, you know, looking for pay, you know, consideration. But they had great candidates. We've been, you know, pretty good in this area, pulling candidates, I think, you know, for consideration. So it's not gonna be easy, but I think we can put together a pool. You know, candidates, you know, out there.
Okay, so with whatever changes they made, you had asked for a couple of small changes.
Yeah, so I've got basically the 2 a hyphen and then, you know, that's the piece says other communities.
So can we get a motion?
I move to approve moving forward with the positioning statement as discussed.
Okay, seconded. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained? Excellent.
So just one comment, I forgot to bring this up. We're gonna change the date. We had a October 31st date. We're gonna move it 1 more week so that we have enough time. So we were looking at calendars today, you know, so we're gonna put November 8th, you know, as a return date. We figure there's a couple of things going on, you know, around that. We can try to get all the people. So we're gonna change that to November 8th. So then the next step is looking at calendars as to when can you interview. You know, and, you know, so we're probably looking at the week prior to Thanksgiving, if we can get some time.
I'm assuming you mean the full week prior, not the week of Thanksgiving.
Correct.
Okay, because that's the only week, the week of Thanksgiving, I cannot make any meeting, but usually nobody plans anything for that.
Right, yeah, I'm free if you want the beginning of the week, but usually that's unacceptable. But no, so I'm looking at probably the week of November 18th at this point.
I'm away.
You're always away.
I know.
You travel too much.
How about the week after Thanksgiving, week of December 1st?
I'm away that week.
I'm here forever.
Okay.
Yes, I'm boring.
Well, I'm in a play, and so I'm not available Tuesdays and Thursday of Thanksgiving week, but you're not there anyways. The week after, probably not available Wednesday, but you're away the week that starts the 2nd. So, yeah, this has been and continues to be issues of just calendar management and how long this process takes because of that.
So a couple of suggestions. One would be
So the first meeting is for you to have presented some candidates.
Right, so what we do is we give you the entire, you know, group. You know, so if we get 20, you know, resumes, you'll get the entire grouping. We tier them, so we usually do, you know, we change it up sometimes, but usually tier 1, 2, and 3 for APC. You know, tier 1 is going to be who we think are stronger candidates. Tier 2 is usually candidates who have real good possibility, but they might be department heads, something, you know, depending on what the pool's looking like. And tier 3 are, you know, folks who really don't qualify. So what we need to do is a meeting where you select who you want to interview. I don't select, you know, I'll provide information, provide background, but you get to select, you know, who are the screening round candidates. We recommend no more than 7, you know, within that.
I would probably say no more than 6, because if
Yeah.
we do it in 2 sessions, that
Yeah.
means one of them's gonna be 4 hours.
6 is fine with me, you know, we go up to 7, but 6 is fine. So we need to meet, we can do that by Zoom.
That's
You
what I was
know,
gonna say, can one of these meetings, can our first one be by Zoom, depending upon what you're doing in traveling and those types of things.
So,
Well, if whoever's away can join by Zoom. I prefer to have the
Right,
meeting in
right.
person, and whoever's away who can join by Zoom.
Just so we
yeah.
can keep going and getting,
so,
it's gonna be Christmas before.
you know, assuming Chris could potentially join us by Zoom the week of the 18th, another thought
The week
is
of,
it's inconvenient, but what about Thanksgiving week? Trying to
No, he's
25th,
Tom's away.
27th. Oh, you're away, Tom, Thanksgiving.
I'll be driving, well, I potentially could do it Monday night, but I can meet, but I can't, not interviews.
Right.
Because I'll be probably starting out my travels to Cincinnati on
All right, so
Monday.
suffice to say, somebody's gonna be doing remote.
so if we're looking at the 28th or 30th,
So if unavailable, I mean, we could just get inputs as well, right?
I'm sorry.
I could provide inputs prior to the meeting.
yeah, you're gonna see all of them, you're gonna see the tiers, you can decide, you know, that night by Zoom or in advance, who you want to talk to.
Let's set up our interviews and then
Yeah.
we'll work backwards as to the night, you know, for the other piece. So when can we get, you know, 5 of you together to do
Yeah, because that's.
2 times of interviews?
I honestly think we're gonna have trouble.
The week of December 16th.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the week of December 9th, maybe 16th. But I think ideally, we try to get something the week of the 18th or the week of the 2nd, and just, you know, get everybody on Zoom if we can. We can't record an executive session. You know,
No, and you want to get candidates.
to do that.
If we did that, so.
So you're talking which weeks, Pete? December 2?
I'm talking either, well, no, he had originally asked for the week of the 18th. Chris is away. The alternative was the week of December 2nd. I am away. I could potentially do Zoom.
Well, the interviews
Talking
weren't for
about
the week of the
interviews
18th.
now.
Right, the interviews wasn't for the week of the 18th.
Oh, it wasn't?
No,
I
that was-
misunderstood.
That was to meet.
Oh,
We
okay.
could
Oh, I
maybe
misunderstood.
the end of the week,
Right,
we
that was
could
the
have squeezed
screening
in, but,
Oh, okay.
you know, but yeah, that might be, you know, if that's not working.
Right.
Then
Okay.
we're looking at the week of December 2nd or week of December 9th.
Yeah, those 2
basically.
weeks. Then that's for the interviews.
That's for the interview.
Okay, so I would suggest we do meet the week of the 18th and then skinny down the list and then schedule interviews for the week of the.
Yeah, we can
2nd.
pick a date on that. So where are we on interviews?
Yeah, let's get the interview part done first.
So,
What's the week of December 2? You're not available, Peter?
yeah, I have a business trip.
As long as it's not a Friday and I don't have another meeting, I'm fine.
The week of the 9th, of December 9th, planning board meets on Monday. I would really like to lobby to not do Tuesday because that's gonna be the middle school winter concert.
Well, Tuesday would be select. board
Okay,
meeting.
yeah.
Yeah, so our available nights on those weeks, I'm just looking at the crazy schedule here.
About 11th and 12th.
So the 11th, we should all be available.
What day of the week is that?
Wednesday.
And on the
Um,
12th.
As well as the 9th.
The 9th is planning
The
board.
9th is planning board, second Monday, right?
I mean, I don't know what you're available. We can
So-
do late afternoon into the early evening, you
We all
know,
work
4
for-
meetings.
We all work for a living.
you know,
So
yeah.
Maybe
I would
you
say-
all work for a living. I'm a kept man.
I would suggest the 11th or the 16th.
Well, I want to do 2 in a row,
All right,
just
11th,
because it, you know,
Yeah.
It does make it easier.
yeah.
11th and the 16th.
You know, that's-
What
That doesn't-
does,
that doesn't- that's
does
not true.
the,
Well, I work
Wants
the
to do
12th.
two
is there a
consecutive days.
problem with the 12th?
Oh,
That's
Yeah,
what
what's
it
the
is.
problem with the 12th? Thursday, the 12th, 11 to 12.
That would be a FinCom day, but we may not have a FinCom for that, so.
Yeah,
The rate you're going here. Well,
So the
maybe we-
11th and 12th?
Your acting chair.
No, you never resigned?
that
Yes.
is it.
I didn't hear
Today.
it. Today? Oh, that's why I didn't hear it yet. Sorry about that.
Me too.
11th and 12th. Are we good on those?
Yeah.
Okay. So December 11th and 12th. I'm gonna request someplace other than a town hall. We always try to do things, you know, in maybe a school or something, you know, it is, you know, hate to have candidates coming in here, you know, there's prying eyes, you know, at times.
Yep.
You know, so if we can get an off-site location,
Well, we do have to post it, but
we post it, absolutely.
When you met with us last time at the Britter, is that still not a good place?
That's fine.
Okay.
No, that's what employees are there.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the library or
The
the
library.
school.
The library
or
is
something
Yeah,
like
the
that.
library is good if you can get the
Sedona
Sedona room, yeah.
What time are we talking on the 11th and 12th?
So you probably, with this group, I think you're talking an hour and 15 minutes. If you want a presentation, you know, mixed in, usually we do an hour.
It's gonna be a night.
But, you know, so if you want a little extra time, an hour and 15 minutes, so we're talking about a 4-hour night.
I'm for just jamming it, make it
You
happen.
gotta get it.
Yeah, we gotta do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so we're talking like 6 to 10.
6:30, well,
Or
you
6:30.
can start-
I'm open.
I'll make it work,
Just-
whatever we need to do, I'll make it
Let's
work.
do 6
I
o'clock.
just want to get it done.
6 o'clock, both nights.
By the way, we'll be
Okay.
right in the throes of capital planning, good plan. Hopefully we'll be further along.
So then with that as a date. What, I need at least a week to schedule candidates, so we're looking at if that's, so if we can meet,
You said the week of the 18th.
the week of the 18th to choose,
Plenty of
that'd be
time.
fine.
Yep.
Yep.
So what works?
I would prefer Monday or Wednesday, not Tuesday or Thursday.
So
Why don't
Wednesday is not available for the school committee night.
It's Monday for people, that's not planning board, so.
18th.
Monday's fine.
Okay.
Do you know if you're traveling yet?
November 18th?
November 18th.
Yeah, I already said it was.
You did say you
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
13th through the 23rd.
Are you traveling, I don't want to pry, but you're traveling into an area that makes the time zone impossible to join?
Yeah, it makes it hard.
I mean, we're probably talking about 45 minutes to an hour here, maybe an hour,
I'll try,
you know.
I'll try.
Well, the other thing you can do, John, is make sure you get all the packet of all the tiers of all the candidates to him early enough, so he's got some time to review it. I don't know when you leave or when you come back.
I should have time to review it.
Yeah, if he gets it
Okay.
early enough so that
If
you
you
get.
trust these others to make the decisions who to interview, we're fine.
I don't trust these guys at
I
all.
know.
Just kidding.
It's not kind of
Making sure. All right, so what are we looking at, November 18th, you said?
Yes. And that's a short meeting, so if you want to start.
That's an hour and a half, so.
Hour and a half, so you want to start at 7,
Whatever. Yeah.
6:30 or 7 is fine.
6:30, 7,
and
whatever.
it doesn't matter where we meet there.
Correct. And that'll be executive session. So from now on, you know, all of this will be state private. You know, the discussion of candidates, the only candidates that will ever be discussed publicly will be the finalists, you know, from this point on. So everything stays confidential. No one else, the minutes will not reflect the names of candidates, you know, within there.
Somebody's got to do the minutes, so.
Yeah, well, the minutes will say candidate 1, 2, and 3, or whatever, you know, whatever out of, you know, out of 20, you know, we have I can send you a
If
set
you've
of
been
minutes.
watching the news in the last few months, you know how to do it.
Yeah, there you go.
What time were you settling on the 18th? Was it 6:30 or
7.
7, okay.
All right, and then 6 o'clock on the 11th and 12th.
Okay.
So we've got an agenda at this point and the calendar set.
And question, so are we going to be,
So I'll send you, now, that's the other discussion is, typically what we do with screening committees, and this works well, I'll send you a grid of questions, you know, and typically I pretty much ask the questions going through. You're open for follow-up questions of your own within there, but it makes it a little bit easier if you allow me to just go through the process of asking the questions. It's questions asked, you know, in the right way. I'm not giving all this background of the community. And if you have follow-ups, you just, join in and ask a follow-up question or another question. I'll send you a grid of of, what we use almost, with everybody. We start with leadership, where we talk about, tell us about yourself, leadership, we get into collective bargaining, finance, and, economic development. I'll clean it up a little bit for Lunenburg, and I'll get that to you.
It was December 11 and 12, right? That's what it said.
Yeah,
And at 6.
Yes.
yeah, at the library.
Well, somebody's got to, you're gonna,
Most likely.
I'll email Connor tomorrow, see if he can. Does anybody else handle that, or do I?
No, I'll get the library.
All right, why don't you, okay, great. And then we'll be, you'll get us a room on the 18th here.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Excellent. Do we have a motion? It's been approved. Any other concerns?
We need to make a
Six
motion
was-
to
Say it
change
again?
the date on
I didn't hear
You
you.
don't need a motion on that. I'll make that change.
Okay.
Last thing on our agenda was setting up the next meetings, which we've done that. So if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
second.
All those in favor? All those in favor, so I think.
Aye.
I was stopping for a moment thinking, what time is your next meeting? Because you were going to try to double them up tonight.
We wound up not doing it.
Oh, okay.